I'm good.
Good morning. I'm going to tell you a little bit about medicine during the Civil War. Their tools were good. Their books were pretty good. What they didn't know was germ theory. That was the big problem during the Civil War. Everything they did with dirty tools, dirty hands. And the other problem they had during the Civil War is they had too many patients at once after major battles. They were pretty well educated for their time. As I said, their major problem was there weren't enough medical people to take care of the soldiers coming in all at once.
What are we looking at here?
Basically what I have here is, we call this living history, in which I have things laid out on the table so you can see what they had back then. Their books. President Lincoln wanted all the Army hospitals to be run the same, so he had Dr. Woodward, the U.S. Army, investigate and write this book for all the Army hospitals in the North, so they'd be operated the same way. They also had Gray's Anatomy. This is a copy of it. 1858 is when the series started for Gray's Anatomy. Naturally, there were other publications, but I'm just giving you an idea that they weren't ignorant back then. They did have a lot of medical knowledge. It's just they had a few problems they didn't know about, like germs and too many patients at once. Some of the other things I show down here, they would make their own medications. That was part of being a trained doctor. You were trained as a pharmacist also. You had Bookstone, you'd put in your concoctions. That's a mortal pistol. You would mix it up, roll it out in dirty hands, because once again, you don't know that germs are on dirt. Lay it out on this graduated tablet, cut them off in pieces, roll them up in dirty hands, and put them in jars. And that's how they made pills back then. They, of course, had factories, too, that made them more accurately. They had many tools for specialties. The one I show right here is called an amputation kit. Basically, anything you would come across to remove a bullet, arrow, any object, and if things go badly, if you have to amputate that limb, whether it's an arm, finger, or a leg, this kit would have everything you need in it. If you ever go to a Civil War reenactment, the next one I think will be in Calico, in the San Bernardino area. We actually shoot at each other, and they'll bring a patient in. I clear this table of all these things you see here, and go through an entire operation, just as it was done actually in Edinburgh, Scotland. That's where the book is from. In the 1800s, Edinburgh, Scotland was a major medical institution in the world at that time, and I will show you point by point how they did an operation to take a bullet out. Things will go wrong because of my inability to stop the shaking even with proper medication. Excuse me. Oh, gosh, that's good. And then I will have the tools, and I will show you how to amputate this leg properly, how we sewed it up back then. And then the patient will live for a short period of time. The chaplain will come in and bless him just before he dies. So if you're in Calico, you get to see that. They had chloroform and ether during the Civil War. Most movies, I say most because I looked for them to find even one that shows chloroform and ether used in surgery during the Civil War. I have not found one. During the Civil War, in reality, they practically always had chloroform and ether. Very few surgeries were done without chloroform or ether. And basically how they gave it, you could put on a rag, or you use an ether cone, which is stuffed with cotton. And you pour the chloroform or ether, saturate the cotton. Now pretend I'm the patient and I'm laying on my back. I put the cone not over my nose, because if I do that I will suffocate the patient. There's no oxygen in chloroform and ether. So you hold it 2 to 4 inches up. While you're breathing regular air, you're breathing fumes. In 20 minutes you're asleep, the surgeon will go ahead with surgery and they will not feel a thing. Now during the Civil War, letters were written home soldiers would walk by a field hospital because anybody could walk by. You try that today in modern times. You can't, I've tried. You cannot get to watch an operation. But back then you could walk right by. They'd write letters home saying, Mom, Dad, I just saw it so gruesome. The soldier was groaning and moaning. His body was moving around. They weren't giving him anesthetic. The soldier didn't know what he was seeing because he has no training. He's a farmer. What was happening was he was given chloroform and ether, but you still have involuntary muscle reactions. So the body will move. You will still have groaning. The patient feels nothing. They were trained as anesthesiologists, not in medical school, because it was too new. They were trained on the job. A junior surgeon or a hospital steward, anybody who could learn and show the adaptability to the medical practices, how to give it and learn when it was too much and when it was not enough. And they would touch them up, but they started coming out of anesthesia.